everyone, this is Catherine Winter from Ride Equisafe, and today we are going to address a topic that everybody seems to have a lot of questions about, and that is how do you clean your air vest? Air vests are obviously not machine washable, and they do get dirty, whether it's just from regular use and sweating and being up on your horse's neck, or unfortunately if you've fallen it might get dirty. So wanted to show you some tips and tricks today for how you can get your air vest clean without the big no-no of sticking it in the washing machine. So the very first thing that I'm going to do is I am going to run some room temperature water in my kitchen sink, and I am going to fill the sink up. So I obviously don't have the sink filled all the way up. I just have a little bit of water in it just because we need enough just to get the vest wet, but we certainly don't need to fully submerge it. So once I've got water in the sink, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put just a small bit of detergent in the sink. I always try to use a delicate detergent. So in this case, I'm using Woolite, just popping a little bit there in the sink. And then I'm just going to swirl the water a little bit just to get that detergent into the water a bit. And now I am ready to put my air vest in and start cleaning. So in this example, we are going to be using a Helite zip into air vest, but these instructions are applicable for any air vest that you might be needing to clean up. So whether it's a horse pilot, a hit air, a point two, a free jump, whatever it is, you can use these same instructions. So the big thing about air vests is that they are mechanical. So you do have a canister and a trigger that is either going to be behind a pocket or it is going to be behind some sort of protective material or fabric. And we want to keep that area protected and dry. Because it's mechanical, we don't want it rusting, we don't want it getting wet. So the key as we're doing this is to keep the trigger and canister area dry. So what I'm gonna do is, holding that canister and trigger area out of the water, I'm gonna use my other hand to go ahead and dunk the rest of the vest in the water with the detergent. And I can turn it different ways as long as I am not getting the canister and trigger area wet. So really getting the rest of the areas doused in that detergent as much as possible, but keeping that canister area dry and muddling the vest into the water, really trying to get some of that detergent into the vest. And again, the reason that we are using delicate detergent is because the materials that are used on the outside of the vest tend to be technical materials, and the tubing on the inside of the vest for the air chambers, that is a plastic type material, and we don't want that to break down. So we don't want to use anything harsh on that. So now what we're going to do, that I feel like I've gotten a good amount of detergent in, I'm going to go ahead and drain my sink and let that water drain out. And now what I'm going to do, because let's say my vest is really dirty, I can actually take a scrub brush to it and I can lightly scrub on that outer material. Now, some vests, depending on the model, will have this elastic. So for me, that gets kind of stinky in the underarms. So I just want to really lightly scrub that. I might just scrub that a little bit more with my hands here. But where the material is solid, or if you have a vest that's a little bit more of a cross-country style vest, those are usually made of a canvas material, so you can scrub a little bit more firmly there. And being that I drained the water from the sink, I'm not really as concerned about keeping the trigger dry. And as I'm doing this, you know, I want to make sure that I'm cleaning off the inside and the outside. The inside for me tends to get stinkier just because of sweat and whatnot. And if I've got an area that has gotten particularly dirty, like for me, the front of the vest tends to get really dirty because I don't have the greatest position when I'm jumping, and I tend to rub against my horse's mane. So what I might do in that case is I might put a little bit of extra detergent, not a lot, directly onto my scrub brush to really like scrub those areas and try to get them a little bit cleaner. So once I've done that, the next step is that I'm going to refill my sink again with tepid water. And now that I've got the sink a little bit filled up again, basically this is my rinse cycle. So I am dipping my vest, muddling it a little bit, trying to rinse out the detergent. Same thing, trying to keep the canister and trigger system out of the water. And I will do this a couple of times, depending on how much I have used detergent or how much detergent I've added to the water or put on my scrub brush. I will drain my sink 2 or 3 times and refill it with clean water just to get as much detergent as possible out of the vest. And once I have done rinsing it, drain the sink again. And now with the sink drained, the next thing that I'm going to do is I am just going to push some of the water out of the sink. So the big thing here when you are drying it is that you do not want to be like, you know, twisting or wringing the vest, because you don't want to displace the air chambers. You don't want to be, you know, really mushing or risking tearing those air chambers. So, you know, I'm folding a little bit and pushing this down, but I'm definitely not wringing this out. And obviously this is not something that can go in a clothes dryer. So I will just continue pushing on this, trying to get as much water as I can out of this. And when I'm done doing that, the next thing I'm going to do, so all air vest, the trigger and canister system is going to be either behind a pocket, covered in some sort of fabric. And day to day as we're using them, they're going to get a little bit wet. So you might get caught in a rainstorm. If you think about riders that are eventing and going cross country, sometimes they fall into the water. That does not render the vest ruined or unusable. But what I do recommend is that when you get your vest wet, whether it's for one of those reasons or you're washing it, that you open the chamber to make sure it's dry. So you can see here that this is pretty dry. We've gotten a little bit of water in there. And so what I'm gonna do here is I'm just gonna pat dry this area with a towel. I'm gonna stick my finger down in here just to make sure this is as dry as possible. But there's no water that's gotten into the key ball area, no water that is in the trigger from the top. What I actually recommend doing is doing this with your canister in, because then that creates a seal as well. So you have less risk of water getting in the top. But I just wanted to show you guys, kind of how it looked when I did this. So now that I have towel dried that area, the next thing that I'm going to do, last step, is I'm just going to stick my vest on a hanger and I'm just going to hang it to dry. Just going to let it drip dry naturally. So it's nice weather here today, so this is actually going to go outside to drip dry. And in a couple of hours, it should be totally dry, clean, and ready to use again. Feel free to reach out to us at Ride Equisafe if you have any questions about how to keep your vest clean or any other tips and tricks related to equestrian safety equipment.